Today, the first day of International Conference is beginning with the first academic session, panel discussion. The topic of the panel discussion is the need to speak in one voice about weaving yoga into educational systems. First, the chairperson, Dr. Rajan Velurkar. Dr. Rajan Velurkar holds master degree and PhD in statistics. He has 31 years of experience in the field of higher education, which includes teaching at the undergraduate and postgraduate levels, academic administration, training and capacity building, community service, and youth development. He had been serving as the director of Sydenham Institute of Management Studies, Research and Entrepreneurship Education since September 2009. Between 2004 and 2009, he served as Vice Chancellor of the Yashwantrao Chauhan Maharashtra Open University, Nashik. Earlier, he had served as Senior Program Officer and HRD Lead Officer to the Commonwealth Secretariat's Commonwealth Youth Program, Asia region. Dr. Velurkar was an officer on special duty in the Higher and Technical Department of Government of Maharashtra and also served as Deputy Secretary Education to Governor of Maharashtra between March 2000 and October 2003. Mr. Philip Connor is a scientist and engineer, a long-term yoga practitioner. He is the inventor of the LSA solar collector and an executive director of Sun Energy Private Limited. Initiated as Swami Purna Murthy Saraswati in 1979 by Swami Satyananda Saraswati, he has taught yoga and meditation techniques for 35 years and was a director and member of the Satyananda Ashrama and later Satyananda Yoga Academy, Australia over most of 1998 to 2015. He helped establish the mainstream yoga education role in Satyananda Yoga Academy in Australia. He gained an electrical engineering degree from Sydney University in 1973 and a master's degree in electrical engineering and computer science from the University of New South Wales in 1982 in processor design. He has had 25 years with CSIRO, a federal government research developing center, electro-optical robotic instruments for the classification of minerals for the mining industry using spectroscopy. He had a 45-year passion for solar power and embraces a thorough understanding of solar technologies, both PV and thermal. The second panelist is Dr. Lata Satish. Dr. Lata Satish's work experience includes extensive research at the University of Madras, Department of Psychology from 1991 to 2009. During that time, she established herself as UGC research scientist. Her teaching experience includes teaching postgraduate students in the Department of Psychology, University of Madras since 1991, and successfully guiding MA and MPhil dissertations in the Department of Psychology, University of Madras, 1991 to 2009. She is life member of Madras Psychology Society and Indian Academy of Applied Psychology and the Trustee Center for Indian Knowledge Systems. Professor Bhogal. Dr. B.R. Sharma is associated with Kaivalyadhama Yoga Research Institute, Lonavala, for last 3 decades, currently working as principal, GS College of Yoga and Cultural Synthesis, Kaivalyadhama, Lonavala. He worked as the head of Philosophical Literary Research Department, Kaivalyadhama, having 30 years of experience in the field of philosophical literary research in yoga and allied subjects. He has in his credit 10 books as one of the editors like Yoga Kosha, Yoga Concordance, volume 1 to 7, and various critical editions of yoga texts like Jyosnahata Pradipika, Commentary, Shiva Samhita, Vasishta Samhita, etc., and more than 40 research papers published in Proceedings, Souvenirs, and in renowned yoga journals. He has worked as member of Advisory Board, Yoga Traditional Knowledge Digital Library, Project of Ayush Department, Government of India, Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, New Delhi. He has 25 years of experience in teaching traditional yogic tests, Patanjali Yoga Sutra, and Hatha Yoga in various courses of Kaivalyadhama. He is a recognized research guide for MPhil and PhD for Kavi Guru Kalidas Sanskrit University, Nagpur, and Tilak Maharashtra University, Pune. Delivered numerous talks on yoga and allied subjects on invitation as keynote speaker, resource person, visiting professor in various universities and institutes in India. Widely traveled in Spain, Italy, Korea, Japan, Switzerland, Portugal, and Bulgaria to organize yoga workshops on invitation from different yoga associations. He has also worked in the capacity of managing editor, Yoga Mimamsa, a quarterly research journal, and a member of editorial board, come managerial board, and he has also worked as executive editor for the same for more than 10 years, and presently working as one of the editors. He has worked as organizing secretary of national seminar and also organized reorientation program for ISM and H personnel of Ayush department, and worked as a chairperson of various institutional committees and program committees, as well as member of organizing committees in 7 international conferences, etc. Dr. B.R. Sharma is also a member of Scientific Advisory Committee of Central Council for Research in Yoga and Naturopathy, Ministry of Ayush, Government of India. He is a member of Academic Council of Kula Kalidas Sanskrit University, Ramtek, Nagpur. Thanks.
Thank you. I am Dr. Rajan Velukar. I have been given the responsibility to chair this session. We have 4 panelists amongst us, renowned in the field of yoga, practicing yoga since several years. They have been invited to share their wisdom with all of us. This session will go on for 1 hour. I would like to divide this 1 hour as some part of which will be sharing the wisdom by 4 panelists, and then question and answer session if you have any. Now we start with Mr. P. Connor.
I am an active scientist in the physical sciences, as my introduction indicated. But I've also had a long background in yoga as a practice, and also to some degree as an administrator. So I was just saying that I am an active scientist in Australia's premier science organisation, the Commonwealth Scientific Industrial Research Organisation, and I am also working in a solar energy company which has work going on right next door to Kaivalyadhama in the Walvan Dam that belongs to Tata Power, floating solar systems. And I think all of these things have happened purely because of my practice of yoga since 1976. I wanted to point out today that I think we already do speak with one voice. I don't think that this is really a problem. But I'll just go to the fundamentals of what education is about and what yoga is to achieve. The word education comes from the Latin educare, which means basically to draw something out from the individual. to draw the basic qualities, the innate potentials of the individual out. It's not a process of conditioning the mind. It's a process of bringing out its potentials. This is something we often forget. And yoga is the ideal basis for preparing the body and mind for its full potential. So the result of this practice of yoga, whatever practice you do, is to bring balance to the two parts of the nervous system and the brain, which are symbolized or referred to as Ida and Pingala in yoga. And when that balance occurs, we say the Sushumna flows. This is not just some abstract thing. These are powers of the mind, which I call modes of perception. They're not a matter of intellect or memory. These are the things that come out from balancing the state of the body and the brain. So they're a preparation to make education possible. And the real outcome of this is a creative mind, a mind that can solve any problem. And a good scientist is such a person who can solve any problem in any field. And this kind of thing has happened to me. I have been able to solve hundreds of different problems in science simply because I was given the gift of yoga at the age of 25 by Swami Satyananda from Bihar. The most important thing is that this yoga is the most important cultural heritage of India, and it really must be used for the process of national development, if nothing else. So, one little example of the means of taking yoga into the education system was a project that I was involved in the 90s, which was to establish the Satyananda Yoga Academy in Australia. And this was done mainly for the purpose of taking yoga into the mainstream education system to get government accreditation. And it was done at the level of yoga teacher courses. And it was done with great success. That's been operating for over 15 years with government accreditation, which of course gives the students the ability to get government assistance in doing their courses, and all the units of those courses are given credit in associated things like osteopathy or naturopathy or other types of things. There are many other ways to do it and things that have to be done. For instance, teaching yoga in their standard curriculum, the doctors and the school teachers having units of yoga in their standard curriculum, and which I think is already beginning to happen here. It has happened in many other countries to a small degree. But these are the kinds of things we need to do. So thank you. I'm interested.
Thank you, Mr. Connor, for giving us the information about the introduction of yoga in education system. Now I would like to invite Dr. Madam Satish, who's from University of Madras, basically a professor of psychology, now into using psychology into yoga.
Now, the concept of yoga in education has got a context, educational setting. Stakeholders are students, parents, teachers, school management, policymakers. We are service providers, teachers, yoga institutes and traditions. The outcome is all of us are looking for holistic development, a quality of life, yoga as a profession in curriculum. I am keeping this as the context for my discussions, sir. Personally, I had some research experience with respect to educating school students on yoga practices and also in the college setting based on the experiences and our own teaching in Krishnamacharya Yoga Mandiram. I am trying to share the points. Now, traditions have emerged because of unique contributions of Guru Parampara. We cannot say no to the Parampara because they have left a lot of lineage and knowledge and scriptural information which can never be obliterated. So we have to preserve it at any cost. And preservation happens only when the Parampara continues. So in no way I am advocating this in this particular discussion. Now, philosophy of yoga is same for all of us and we all acknowledge all the practices. The differences emerges only in the way yoga is applied in the education, and therefore the government or the policy makers are asking the question, which product is better? Is it this Kaivalyadhama yoga or is it BKS Iyengar yoga? So like that we have become a very good marketing personnel, and so we have to develop the product in a particular way so that we speak in one voice. Now, yoga teaching has still remained as a service among traditional centers, and its some disintegrated form has reached the colleges and schools, and thanks to the effort of government, many educational institutes are also offering yoga education in a very systematic manner. So with all this background information, what is that we can do? Now the consequences of different voices, the consequences of different tradition, that is what I am keeping in my mind for this panel discussion is, there is a branding of tradition that makes it, it depends upon its efficacy and accountability. If a particular tradition makes a mistake, that becomes the mistake of the yoga for the whole of across the country. I am not talking about the yoga practitioners. The practitioners will accept because they respect the teachers. I am talking about the policy makers. If somebody makes a view that by doing yoga practices, intellectual development will increase threefold, fourfold, creativity, I accept. And there will be a psychologist sitting and asking, how can yoga improve the intelligent quotient of somebody? So that is when we will get into trouble. So that's why we have to be very careful when we talk to people about the outcomes of yoga practice, also the accountability of our practices. Education system is a context which is larger than the traditions of yoga, and the acceptability of the latter will be minimal. Because when you are putting yoga into an educational curriculum and system, the people who are sitting there will be all thinking from a different point of view. Just now I heard in the inaugural function that when the policy makers are talking, they say make it such a way that we can adopt it into our curriculum. So you have to look at it from the yoga the educational institute where yoga will be offered as a curriculum. Now education is currently used yoga education. When we are talking about yoga education in the curriculum setting, it is an add-on program as a curriculum. Add-on. Okay, you are having physical activity, you are having a value education moral science, and you are having a computer science class, go to yoga also. So yoga doesn't work like that. So we have to bring it as some form of unity in that. Strategy 1. The first important voice we have to develop is empirically supported research evidence clearly delineating what is the role of yoga for children in higher education for the stakeholders in terms of children, students, parents, family setting, and in the school system also. So that part of it has to be clearly brought out as a concise, edited research evidence compiled. So what is the actual noticeable changes you see at the first primary level, secondary level, or at the higher level? Now yoga training has long-term developmental implication, and there is a lacunae of long-term development, long-term results. Like short-term 3 months training is given, memory is assessed, even I myself have done that. We have assessed the personality by 1 year 1 year period and say personality, these changes have taken place. But the school or the colleges are looking at the developmental trajectory. Developmental trajectory is emotional cognitive development in the children or adults over a period of the lifespan. If we can make that as a marker, that becomes a very important, significant voice for yoga teachers and yoga institutes to present it to the educational setup, so that we can say that by the end of 10th year, this child will be competent in maths ability to such an extent, whatever it is, we can predict that. So that is what we will have to look for. Short-term yoga training is used as a contingency value addition. Like for example, if I go and give a training in the yoga school, I may take it up as a research project, or I may take it as a project in my institute, or the school principal has approached me for asking for help to our student. Then the short-term training program is 6 months. What I will say is an emotional stability, maybe a little bit better concentration, and the child is performing better. Well and good. But the school says, after the yoga, once the yoga is over, the child is back to his pranks. Something like that. So that should not be there. So we have to make a change such a way that when there is a developmental change is taking place in the child at all the levels, yoga has to add on information so that the teachers takes it, the principal and the policy makers also understand it. To understand that, only the research consolidation is necessary. Evidence. In terms of meta-analytic study, we have not done any meta-analytic study about children's yoga education for children. What is its outcome? When some 30-40 studies have been compiled, we can clearly mark this is the benefit we are going to get out of yoga practice. Most of the educational policy makers also will take it very well. More clear communication on program implementation, its evaluation, accountability. If Kaivalyadhama is doing a particular program, I have to have a clear knowledge about what they are doing so that I can replicate it and I can take the same parameters and say, yes, whatever you have done, I have done, it is similar, so that let us go across to the school and present it. Education scenario as a developmental context expands a graded structural learning yoga models. So I cannot take a yoga module which I have been practicing in a therapy program to the school. We have to have a curriculum which is appropriate to the school, or what is the specific achievements we are planning to achieve. Kaivalyadhama, I believe sometime back we had a discussion about school curriculum. This is what happened in Delhi, where level 1, level 2, level 3 type of programs, modules were done. Probably they are implementing it also, but this should come across India, so that what happens, all the institutes will speak in one voice regarding the curriculum, regarding the outcomes, and regarding the way the project is evaluated. That is where the difference comes. I may evaluate a project after 6-7 months because I may lack a human resource. Somebody evaluates a project after 3 months. Now the results will definitely be different. It won't be same. So this has to be addressed. Participatory approach to the yoga research is needed. Parents should be involved, because yoga, if it has to be accepted, parental consent, teacher participation, community participation is needed. So that is where I see a roadblock, because when I went and approached the school, the teachers were telling, okay, this class you take, don't take this one. I said, why they are to be denied? I said, no, those parents are not willing. Something like they have segregated. So that is where we have to look into. Now, another important outcome, suggestion is we have to have a multi-center, multi-traditional evaluation in educational setting. Like for example, if a module is developed, I can replicate it in Chennai, somebody can replicate it in Pune, somebody can do it in Delhi, so that we can collaborate the data and then say what actually is the outcome of yoga for the children and put it to the policy makers so that it can be brought into the educational system. Now, the sharing of the best practices of each tradition across the program implementation. I know there are certain practices which we give to the children are very efficacious, like Vinyasa Krama in Asana practice. And I know there are certain practices which are developed in this center where students are given a lot of value education in terms of Yama Niyama principle. We have borrowed it and we are implicating it in our institute. Such practices has to be shared. When we share that, then we are talking in one voice. Then the second strategy is communication between the members of different tradition, like all of us. Dialogue, discussion, I consider this as the first dialogue that we are having. common guidelines for practices and principles which can be used across. And why the disparity? I have to reflect on this, and the disparity is because of our own kleshas, klesha, abhinivesha. We have avidya, asmita, raga, dvesha, abhinivesha. One of the abhinivesha is, if I share my thing, I may become insecure. This is there in the individual level. Dvesha, criticism or ridicule of another tradition. Attachment to my own view, my own practices, that is the best practices, nothing else is working, and something like that. So I don't want to dwell on this. I think by the word itself, people can reflect on this. Now, the third strategy is removing service providers' bias. It falls out from the kleshas. I have a bias. I should stop thinking automatically. I should be deliberative. When I start a program and evaluate a program and bring out an outcome, I should know why this has failed or why it has succeeded. The critical aspect of analysis comes with deliberative thinking. The latest World Economic Development Report says that in many policy decisions, the developers, the one who implement the policies, are so biased about their policy, they will never evaluate why it has not worked. So we have to do that. And thinking from a single frame of yoga perspective only is limiting in educational setting. We have to think from other frames also. From the frame of a teacher, let us say if it is a maths teacher, what is she requires from her student? If it is a sports teacher, what is it that they require? So if we can incorporate the different perspective of parents, perspective of the educators also, then it will be easy. Like for example, one of the important perspective I inculcated in our practice was giving a short practice of 10 minutes before they go to, after the prayer. Assembly prayer is there, then they will do a 5-10 minutes of sitting, closing eyes, they do a mantra japa, and then they will wait for some time and then go to the class. The principal was very happy. She said, this doesn't take much of our other curriculum activity. I'm so happy. What you are so happy about? So happy that the children are disciplined and they are ready to listen in the first hour of the class. So that is how we have weaved the practice into the educational curriculum. Anyway, we can improvise on that. Now, the last, another important thing is the resistance to yoga, intolerance, lack of acceptance of certain techniques needs to be explored. If somebody is not willing to do something, we should understand why they don't want to do it. I cannot enforce, but at the same time should be able to explain or simplify, adopt or modify, or try to get the best out of that principle to that person or to that group or community. So this is where we are going to have a roadblock in the educational policy makers may raise red flag when they don't want certain things. No, we don't want this, we don't. But for us, we know it is very, very precious practice, but they may deny on that. So this is reality checking before we implement a program into the educational system. Now this has to be done at both at the practice implementation as well as policy implementation. Lastly, traditions of yoga needs to be respected and nurtured to maintain their uniqueness. Whatever said, and that uniqueness of each tradition has to be maintained, and we have to share the knowledge. Joining together is yoga, and it is individual goal for my purpose, Atmartham Prithvi Tyajet. But for the sake of the Gramartham, you have to give up something. So for the sake of community, I can come up merging with some other tradition, and I can deliver something better for the community. So with this, what we can offer. So I am trying to represent an institute, Krishnamacharya Yoga Mandiram. So what I suggest is, as a way to enhance a unique single voice on yoga, we are ready to share the evidence, also our training module. We are also having certain unique practices like Vinyasa Karma, chanting practice in asana. We can share it with you, provide it to the people so that you can take it to the school. And then we also are ready for collaborative studies where we can replicate, conduct workshops where we can receive the individual institutional knowledge so that it can be implemented, and ready to participate where guidelines for school and colleges where yoga education can be implemented. Thank you very much.
Now I invite Dr. Bijlani from Aurobindo Ashram to give his presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My dear brothers and sisters, the topic is very simple. Since there are so many traditions of yoga, and we have now decided to incorporate yoga into the curricula of schools and colleges, we need to speak in one voice. We need to reconcile all these traditions. And if it has to be one voice, it should be my voice. That's short and simple, but not so sweet, isn't it? Now, coming to it a little seriously, what it means is that we should restrict what we put into the curricula to some basic fundamental principles and leave the details to the individual institutions, and I would even say the teachers who are going to execute the curriculum. Now, what should these fundamentals be? Firstly, the curricula should not restrict themselves to the visible part of yoga, by which I mean the asanas and the pranayamas. That in any case will be there, but that is not what it should be restricted to. The curriculum should also include the invisible part of yoga. Why that is important is because what the visible part does is to sharpen the instrument. It sharpens the body and the mind. But the body and the mind are mere instruments. An instrument can be used for good or bad. For example, a sharp knife may be used for chopping fruits and vegetables, and it can also be used for stabbing somebody. In the same way, if the person is physically fit, emotionally stable, intellectually agile, which means his body and mind are performing the function optimally, this person will make a good doctor, a good teacher, a good engineer, a good scientist. But at the same time, it will also make a very good terrorist. Because unless the terrorist is also physically and mentally sound, he will not be able to launch a successful terrorist attack. And the beauty of yoga is that it not only has the techniques for improving the performance of the body and the mind, it also has guidance for how to use the instrument, and that is the invisible part of yoga. That is the yoga that goes on throughout day and night. So yoga is not a part-time activity, it's a full-time activity. Now, this invisible part may be important, but it is difficult to incorporate. Not only because, once again, here there will be many voices, but also because we have to take care that we should not impose and we should not be seen to impose any belief systems and promote any particular school or a guru or a spiritual teacher. Now, how can we do that? I have made a list of 5 points which we can put in this invisible part of yoga. Firstly, yoga provides us guidance about how to make choices in life. Because essentially going towards the goal of life, as it is in any journey, depends upon making the right choices. For example, if we are on a journey in the road, whether we'll go towards the goal or not depends upon what choices we make at every T-junction or the crossroads. And the same thing happens in life. And yoga provides us the guidance that for making these choices, we should not depend upon the emotional part of the being or the intellect, because these are both unreliable. What we should depend upon is the inner light, the light emanating from our soul. The second thing is that one of the choices which young people have to make, and we are talking about schools and colleges, particularly schools, is career choice. Now, once again, yoga provides the guidance that just should be the clue for the career choice should come from 2 sources. One is the unique talents, gifts, and blessings which the child has, and secondly, the unique weaknesses which the child has, so that you do the work where your strengths can be best utilized and the weaknesses don't matter. The second thing which should give a clue to the career choice is the conditions and circumstances in which we are placed. This Swabhava and Swadharma. So these are the 2 important things which provide us the clue to the career. Having said that, another important thing that we have to bring out is that, yes, these are the indicators which we should use for making a career choice, but then career is only a part of the vehicle that we get for fulfilling the purpose of life. It is not an end in itself. Which means that if we do not get our first choice, doesn't mean that life comes to an end. Because the importance of a vehicle in any journey is limited. If we know where we have to go, even a bike will take us there. If we don't, even a car will not. This will relieve a lot of stress amongst many young people. Another thing that is important is that the work that we do, which means the career which we take up, forms only a part of the vehicle. And in fact, everything that we get in life is a vehicle. The work that we do, the interactions that we have in life, the way we look after the family, and very important, the way we look at the unexpected events in life, which we generally classify into good fortune and misfortune. These are not good fortune and misfortune. These are opportunities that we have been given for fulfilling the purpose of life. So, to look at all the happenings of life in this dispassionate way and a positive way, welcoming them as opportunities which have been given to us for fulfilling the purpose of life is another aspect of yoga. Now, all this may make the child or the student feel that yoga is about something very dull. Now, what we have to also bring out in this curriculum is that yoga is something that gives us a happy life. The only difference is that some of the ordinary things which make us happy ordinarily are replaced by things which are higher, wider, deeper, more enduring. These are the things that start making us happier. So, in fact, we are not giving up happiness. It's only the things that make us happy that change. And what are the types of things that, what is the type of happiness that we get? No, to just put it very simply, there is a certain happiness that is involved when we get a new dress. And there's also happiness that comes when we give clothes away in charity. So there is a happiness that comes from getting, and there's a joy that comes from giving. Yoga gives us choices in life which come from love and compassion. And therefore, it makes us experience the joy of giving. And once we experience that, then we know that it has a superior feel. So we start getting a superior version of happiness, number one. Secondly, we get a happiness which is entirely in our own hands. Because we can give anything to anybody, we can't force anyone to give us something. We can love somebody, we can't force anyone to love us. So this is a happiness which is better in quality, feels much better, and it is entirely in our own hands. And lest the student go away with the impression that yoga is about individual happiness and individual salvation, we also have to bring in some of the basics of the collective aspect, and that is we are all one, because our source is one. We are like those apples which grew on the same tree, but have been packed in a box and have forgotten where they came from. And therefore, one apple thinks I'm better than the one next to me because I'm more red. Another one thinks I'm better than the one next to me because I'm more sweet. And the third one thinks I'm better than the one next to me because I'm bigger. That is what ego is about. But once we realize that at a certain fundamental level, we are not only one, but also identical, that dissolves that ego barrier, as Swamiji was saying during the inauguration. So to conclude, now, when it comes to the visible part of yoga, that would be taught by the trained yoga teacher during the period that is assigned for yoga. When it comes to the invisible part of yoga, that can be taught by any teacher in any period. Not necessarily through words, but through example and influence. And therefore, every teacher, irrespective of the subject that the teacher is teaching, should be aware of yoga, particularly the invisible part. Because every teacher is not going to go and teach asanas and pranayamas. There will be many who will be teaching language and mathematics and science. And these are the teachers who should also be familiar, and therefore I'm very happy that the National Council of Teacher Education has in its new curriculum for the B.Ed students put yoga for all the would-be teachers, irrespective of what they would be teaching. I only hope they have laid enough emphasis on the basic fundamentals of the invisible part of yoga, and in a manner that is simple, age appropriate, and which does not give any impression that any particular belief system or school of yoga is being promoted. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor, for such a wonderful presentation where you have brought invisible things and visible things. Now we have the last speaker with us who's working in this very institute, having experience of many years, Dr. B.R. Sharma will give his presentation.
So friends, only one or two points I will highlight. The first one is, there is a question in my mind, why there are different traditions and lineages. Because every one of us is unique. Our temperament is different, our constitution is different. Whatever is suitable to Dr. Vizlani may not be suitable to me. Therefore, there are different traditions. When you go through that tradition, because I am a man of tradition, if I talk in terms of the different traditions, then there is a Hatha Yoga, there is a Laya Yoga, there is a Raj Yoga, there is a Mantra Yoga, and if you go through this Shiv Samhita, it clearly states that if you are having this kind of abilities, qualities with you, then you should opt this yoga and not that yoga. There are 4 kinds of sadhakas and 4 kinds of yoga enumerated in Shiva Samhita. You can go through, giving you the reference, it is in the 5th chapter, 16th to 28th verse, you can go through, all the qualities are mentioned. Dear friends, this part should not be lopsided, this is to be given thought. Because the challenge in incorporating yoga in contemporary education system, the main challenge is this. So what I would like to suggest here is that it is clear that there is a need to implement yoga in education system, because our students are developing, but only or sharpening their heads only, but there's no integration with their hearts. So head and hearts both should be developed simultaneously, and then only their action will be proper. As Dr. Vizlani clearly said, this should be the focus. Gyan, Ichha and Kriya means knowledge, desire and the action. If these 3 means thought, your words and your deeds, how they can be integrated. And there are certain procedures, strategies available in the philosophical or spiritual pursuits, that there are the Jnana Yoga, there is a Bhakti Yoga, there is a Karma Yoga, there is a different yogas. So whatever is suitable to your temperament, that you have to choose. But who will decide? In olden days, there was a Guru Shishya Parampara, and these people were working under one Guru, and Guru was observing their behavior, and accordingly, this person is suitable for Mantra Yoga, this person is suitable for this yoga, and this is suitable for... There are certain common points, there are certain common practices that can be implemented at any... But as Dr. Vizlani ji said, that there is an invisible area which is to be... So that invisible area is to be decided on the basis of the inclination of the student. That is most important part, because it is a big challenge. How to do this in the classroom? I was thinking that it would be better if teacher is having that kind of ability, he should choose such type of a student who is having one kind of inclination. This is one kind of group, this is another kind of group. And in that group, this can be implemented or that can be implemented. There are so many procedures that can be implemented, no doubt about it. But thing is that this is to be kept in mind, because this is a big challenge. And whatever is not suitable to someone, suppose nowadays the parents, they are imposing something on their children, and children, they are not interested, and therefore develop bad habits and distorted their personality, So that should not be. So happiness, as he said, it is in Vyasa Bhashya also, and as well as in Krishnamacharya tradition also, it is mentioned that this is to be kept, that Swa Anubhava, this experiential of the student should be kept in mind. If he is happy, it is good. Otherwise, it should be, the other practice should be given to him or her. This is what is to be kept in mind. This is a big challenge. Otherwise, the traditions, the lineages, all are to be appreciated, all are to be respected because they have certain parampara and this parampara is to be followed. But this parampara we have to keep in mind because of the different constitutions, different temperaments. And this aspect should be taken care of while implementing yoga in education system. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Sharma. Now, I think we can have question and answer session and then I will sum up.
I just had one comment on the presentation which has just finished. Yes, one of the beauties of the Gita is that it offers the possibility of entering the stream of yoga that is most in keeping with the temperament of the student. But the very reason for this topic is that we cannot have 3 different types of curricula, one for the Jnana yogis, one for the Bhakti yogis, and one for the Karma yogis. That's why we need to speak in one voice. And that's why I tried to stick to some basic fundamentals which apply to everybody. And we have to also remember that through the curricula, we are not trying to produce yogis or even yoga practitioners. What we are trying to produce is basically, in very simple language, people who will be able to work properly because they have a healthy body and mind, and that they will use this body and mind properly because they have become good people. So we want people who can work well with a healthy body and mind, and they should be good persons. That's all we want.
Just a minute, sir. Just a minute. I do agree with this statement made by Dr. Vijayalani ji. But the thing is that what I wanted to say is that whatever you are doing, if you are doing it with that dedication, then only your action will be, as in the morning session, this inaugural session, you have heard, Yadev Shraddhya Vidya Upanishado Kuroti Tadev Virya Baltaram. Whether you want to uplift yourself towards the material side or the spiritual side, or you want to develop a kind of a balance between the two, there's no doubt. But this is a general principle that whatever you do, it should be done with full knowledge, with full faith, and with full kind of devotion, what we call the upasana. And then only your action can become fruitful. So, I mean to say, as you cannot divide your Gyan, Ichha and Kriya, similarly the Gyan, Bhakti and Karma cannot be divided into 3 because they are just, means whatever the knowledge you have, it should be implemented properly, systematically, then only your action will be perfect. So I mean to say, I do not say that this is not, this is the one, Gyan, Ichha, Kriya is one. That is the reason why Lokmanya Tilak in Gita Rahasya, he has said, the purpose of Bhagavad Gita is one voice, that is Karma Yoga, to set forth the Karma Yoga. This is a one voice. But this Karma Yoga is rooted in Gyan and developed by the Bhakti. If you are having this kind of attitude, then only this can be done. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Doctor. I think she wants to ask a question.
Today is an age when most of our children are forever staring at some screen, whether it is their cell phones or iPads or computers or TV screens. In this age of instant gratification, their intellect is completely hijacked by Western culture, and they find anything which is of electronic media, very interesting. For us parents, these are distractions. Isn't it a challenge to make yoga appealing to them, which I feel they find quite dull and boring? So how do we overcome this challenge?
What we need to do is firstly try and sort of not try to cut the wood against the grain. If the children are spending too much time on the screen, let's provide material related to yoga on the screen. That is one. Secondly, we have to try and also see why the children are spending so much time on the screen. Is it because the parents are not giving enough time to the child, not providing enough alternatives? And can we provide something which is more interesting to the child than the screen? And also, there are some studies which now come, this is an international problem, there are some studies which have come from some countries, which show that children, in fact, who spend too much time on the screen don't do academically as well as those who spend less time. So, although it may seem that they are getting a lot of knowledge and knowledge from the electronic media, that probably does not come in a form that becomes useful when it comes to giving just the right thing in a properly synthesized form in the examinations.
Sri Aurobindo has integrated many strands of yoga, and he has already talked about this integration of, he has synthesis of yoga is written. That is the weaving of different yogic paths into integral yoga. He is very special in that, and Bijlani has brought the same idea, and up to the 10th standard, the government is asking us to study all the subjects. After reaching a maturity, then only they are allowed to choose the path. So like that, it's only a suggestion that everyone here should know, the children or even the teachers, learners or teacher, they should be given equal chance to know about all the strands of yoga, so that in whichever he finds weak, he can strengthen that strand and make a balanced rope. So this is my suggestion, and in the stage itself I find there are two different opinions, and there should be a single voice. And another thing, in the beginning Mr. Kannur was talking, that time the mic was not at all working, we could not hear and understand. If time permits, ask him to give the brief of what he had told. Thank you so much.
I received one more question, and now it is not a question but it is a suggestion. So I would read for all of you. It is from Mr. Rakesh Goel. He says, in reality, for counseling the school students, the first education of teachers and parents is needed, and only thereafter attempts shall be made to teach students. This was a suggestion given by Mr. Rakesh Goel.
The topic is weaving yoga into education. It looks like another patchwork solution. We have been doing this enough number of times or enough years, I guess. Isn't it should be education which is yoga centric rather than weaving yoga into education? And if the point is the education should be child centric, I want to make the child humane, harmonious and balanced. And we know yoga as a technique does that. The science proves it. The question is, we have to research the science, and the techniques proves it, we can incorporate the techniques, right? Now, my question is, therefore, can the modern society, the setup, provide us an opportunity to set up such a yogic-centric education? Because to do that, I feel you have to work with communities, not just a child. The child is influenced by the parent, by the teacher, and by the society as well. And as the previous comment just came, right? You cannot just work with the child, but if you work with community, you are working with the parents, you're working with the child, you're working with the society and the teachers as well. Of course, the child being the focus, right? Therefore, over a period of time, you can uplift the entire community. Shouldn't we focus something more like that?
See, what has happened is, over a period of time in the community, yoga awareness has increased. Parents have started bringing the children to yoga practices. So one part of it is going on. The second part of it, in the school, awareness of yoga as an add-on education has increased. Research evidence is also being collected showing that it is a very good mind-body techniques to help the children. Fine. The community level, when we practice something and put it in the educational setup after a long time, it takes a lot of time. But if it comes from the policy point of view, it is a very good way of putting an education system into yoga education into the education setting. So that's why the stakeholders is all the people. So from every direction, if you put in some amount of practice principles, both principles and practices are there in the education, it will be most valuable. Now if you see the trend from past 20 years, it has been changing. But still, community work has to be done.
You had an objection to the word weaving. I am the culprit. I suggested that to Subodh Tiwari, but I think it indicates a different type of understanding of the English language. When I suggested weaving, I meant exactly what you want to happen, that it should permeate the entire curriculum rather than be an add-on as a subject. That is what weaving into the school systems means.
This practice exists, and this knowledge exists in several centuries in our country. Now we have forgotten that. Actually, yoga is an integral part of our life, day-to-day life. And if it is integral part of our day-to-day life, and if we have forgotten, and if we are detached with something, then you will have to weave that. So, and therefore, weaving has been kept, must have been kept here. So, whatever has been detached, best practices, now we have to attach. So, nowadays you will find that the hand, if you, they cut your hand, then they can detach your hand, they weave your hand and all those things. So, we have to weave whatever forgotten best practices by all of us.
My name is Sunil Saini. I'm professor of cancer surgery from Dehradun. Suppose you are given the opportunity to define the curriculum for yoga at 5th standard. Please tell me at least 5 different attributes or 5 different aspects of yoga you would like to recommend to integrate or weave at the 5th standard.
Sir, I am suggesting this based on the study we did. It is involving children 5th and 6th standard at Chennai. So the components of yoga was asana, Surya Namaskar was there, and some 5 postures to increase the flexibility of the body. 2 pranayama was taught, Shitali and Nadi Shuddhi pranayama. Mantra was given, only one mantra with a focus was given to the students. The whole practice took for 45 minutes. And they had 5 sessions on talking about the principles of ahimsa, satya, all those yamaniyam. 5 sessions. This was spread over a period of 1 year. It was a part of the curriculum, 1 hour session from 4 o'clock to 5 o'clock in the school setting. All the children did the practice, listened to the talk, and they had the stories, and they had the mantra japam, and they also had the pranayama practice. And everything was systematically documented. 2 research papers have been published based on this study. And it was age appropriate, and it was a part of the school curriculum, like a timetable. All the parents and the teacher consented to the program, and it went on for whole 1.5 years. So it was accepted, and is still going on there, and they have appointed a yoga teacher in that school, and the teacher is carrying it forward.
The 5 which you have asked, as on the internet, if you go, the most 5 things which you should do for this and that, it is not like that. But there are something which are very, very essential that everybody is doing. Say, for example, school children are sitting in a school for more than 8 hours. The posture is very, very important for them. Throughout their life, it is going to help you. Consciously breathing, understanding your breathing. So you can define like this several things. But you cannot say that they should do just these 5 things and it is, but say, these are the simple examples. When you breathe, consciously breathe, isn't it? And there are several such things which can be told to them.
I am Dr. Pathak. I am a surgeon, plus I am also attached to the scientific research department in Kaivalyadhama, the research officer. One of the questions from audience was that our children are playing and giving more time in front of the screen. So I think we should go into the details why they are giving more time into the screen. Because our parents, they don't have time to look after our children. Both of them are working, so they are spending 10 hours outside, and children are coming after the school and sitting at the home alone. So they have got no alternative to have the screen in front of them. So first, education is needed for parents, as madam has suggested in that. When you give teacher yoga for the school, the parents, they say, I also got same experience, that when I have given yogic practices in school, the teachers told us that their parents were asking why they are spending time for nothing, because everybody is result oriented, exam oriented. So this should start from parents also. They should understand the importance of yoga, that it is going to help them from physical, mental and all the levels, so that if that is done, then we can say that in future the students will not give more time in front of screen.
We are not able to engage them in some activities, and therefore they are sitting. I had conducted more than 2,000 camps in villages for 10 days with young people. For 10 days, none of the students asked me about television. They had forgotten television. The reason was they themselves were involved in that activity, which was a creative activity and a service oriented activity. We have not learned how to engage them. The moment you learn to engage them in creativity, I am sure they will be away from. Now, television, I don't think the young people are in front of the television. They are in front of cell phone. So, not on television, many. But we need to engage them. If they are engaged in some creative activity, I don't think they will ask you for television and other things.
My name is Rachna Kharvinda, and I have 2-3 points to make.
Yeah.
First, to Dr. Lata Satish. See, you were talking about the parameters that will be the outcome of yoga. We need to document it or have the empirical evidence of it. In my view, I feel yoga is a way of life. Let's not quantify it. Let's not make it that it makes you better in mathematics or it makes you more intelligent. Every child, every individual has a unique excellence in him. And education starts, first of all, our whole education starts with a very wrong assumption that there is something empty I need to fill in. Rather, every child, every individual has an excellence which he needs to explore and find within. So can we change this whole attitude of the teachers first? And then only will be able to change the attitude of the belief of every child. Every child belief starts that I'm zero, I'm nothing, teacher is all. No. The society, the generation, every generation evolves with every generation. The society should become better. But unfortunately, we see there is a deterioration in the society. Why? As you said, there is a gap in the yogic way of life. We need to reach the adults where they are not working, but they are at home. Reach them somehow to incorporate and realize, rather than just talking about it and making them believe that this is important for the child. No, we need to make them realize it. So can we have one voice in this, in reaching out and breaking this assumption that I am nothing or the child is nothing? Each child has the excellence which he needs to discover. So it is more about self-exploration.
I agree with you. Yoga is self-discovery. It is a process-oriented change. It's an evolution in the transformation in the child. When I said the parameters, it is not for the child, it is not for the parents, it is for the policy makers. No, because when the policy makers implement a particular program in the school, they say what is the outcome. I have been asked like that, that's why I put it.
I agree, but again, we are taking a wrong perspective. The competition brings out the wrong thing in you.
No,
the focus
when I
is
said
wrong.
the competition, it is not.
I don't want to excel. I just want to be balanced.
Madam, it is not marking the intelligence of the child. I am not talking like that.
See,
what I mean to say is when we make a mistake and when we proclaim something happens and it doesn't happen, we are going to make a big mistake. That's it. In that context, I said, let us be accountable. Now, somebody pays money and come to me, I have to be accountable what is possible or not possible. Similarly, in the education system, when you infuse a particular curriculum, the people will be looking for the outcome.
So I am representing Ghantali Mitra Mandal Thane, and I am very beginner of this yoga, so I just 3 months old. So the topic is like need to speak one voice. So that give me impression that we believe that there is no one voice. And I'm taking one step back. That means we are not having a common agreement. So common agreement means to me is like in this country, there are several groups must be experiencing yoga, maybe Bharatiya Yoga Sansthan, Ghantali Mitra Mandal, Patanjali Peeth, Kaivalyadhama. So my submission is, now this is a great time for policy change. If all these experts, you guys, sit together and brainstorm and form a common minimum program and common curriculum and convey to Khuntaiya Saab kind of person who is there to make a policy change. So
whatever the discussion or brainstorming we can have here or there, that is not going to impact the policy. Policy will be impacted when you guys experts will have a common minimum program and curriculum and convey to these policy makers.
Thank you for your suggestion. If different yoga methods exist in India, what is wrong in letting all types of yoga prevail across the country? Can't traditions promote their type of yoga? I think one of the panelists has answered about this. There is no restriction provided you are doing it scientifically and provided it has been validated and provided that it has no side effects. I don't think there is any issue in it.
Has the connection been made between investing time during the school day on yoga and academic achievement? So can you demonstrate, because I know we're looking to do this in the States, can you demonstrate that X amount of minutes spent on yoga practice during the day not only cultivates a yoga practice and head and mind and heart and soul, but also improves scores in maths, also improves scores in reading and academic content?
More than the scores in the maths, the ability to attend to maths problem increases. That has been discovered. So what happens is when the mind-body balance is reached, it improves the concentration and the emotional regulation, facilitates the performance, not directly. So there is a direct and indirect effect. So it moderates the outcome in maths performance, that's all. There is no direct evidence in terms of academic achievement in maths increasing. So far, research has not been proved. But what it has proved is it facilitates the performance in the classroom, and also it facilitates the performance in the sports field. So their performance in any sports activity is facilitated because of the practice.
I must thank all of you for being here to attend this session. Actually, the topic is how do we integrate into our curriculum. The government of India has taken some steps to integrate it. But what I personally feel is, by force, this is not going to get a success. People should join on their own to this movement. Now, why should they join? That needs to be explained to them. So, in a way, in educational system now, people are talking about how do you attract them? Because the first question young person asks you, what will I get out of this? We should be able to tell them what they are going to get out of this. We'll have to convince them why this is essential for them. Today's children are curious. They will ask you questions. If you tell them do pranayama, they will ask you a question, what happens through pranayama? You may tell them some theory, then they will ask you, has anybody done the research on this? So then you will have to tell what kind of research has been done on this. The moment you convince them, I tell you, they will listen to you. They are very obedient young people. I believe in young people. I spend my entire life with young people. If you convince them, they will believe you. And therefore, it is our role as practitioners of yoga and the researchers of yoga to convince them scientifically. We need to answer all their questions scientifically, and they will do yoga. It will create a movement not only in this country but everywhere. Now, why one voice? One voice has a larger meaning. Why one voice? We have heard that our heartbeats creates a rhythm. The moment your rhythm creates a chaos, it goes into a state of disorder. The moment it goes into disorder, then there are problems. And therefore, you have to create a rhythm which will create a order in disorder. Now, if you want to create order in disorder, then if you understand physics, then you will understand what is the use of yoga. Yoga is every day you have to practice, and then only you will get some results. It is not that 7 days you have practiced and then you say, though I have not got any benefit, but it is a habit which you will have to inculcate and create a rhythm in your body. There is a movement in your body, outer body you can see it visible. There is an invisible movement within your body. Now, to create a proper flow of that, you may have to practice yoga. Now, what exactly needs to be done to bring this into curriculum, that needs to be debated. Some of the ideas which has been shared by the panelists, but there are many things which we need to think about. One is the orienting people, delinking yoga to religion. Oh, Galileo was Christian, but he has told all of us that the earth moves around the sun. So this law of Galileo doesn't belong to Christianity. Similarly, these yogic practices doesn't belong to any religion. We need to delink yoga to religion. The moment we delink and take it to the people, then they may understand that this is a discipline of science. Yoga is a discipline of science. And therefore, scientifically, we need to orient people, and then they should come forward on their own. Then only they will be able to understand, and then they will be able to take yoga forward. It is in the beneficial of themselves. Society is not going to benefit by practicing yoga. They themselves will be benefited. And therefore, orientation is very, very important. How do we orient our people? How do we create a content? How do we use the open resources, open educational resources? How do we use the MOOC movement, mega online open courses which have been created in the space, internet? That needs to be, how do we popularize this? The second thing is we need to educate. For educating the young people, we need to create a content. And then the content creation is very, very important. Can we create that kind of content? It is not, the content creation is also an art. The content creation, you should have a team. It is not that I know entire yoga and therefore I only can create a content. For creating a content, you need a team. You need people, those who are language editor, those who are content editor, those who are from multimedia, somebody is from the communication. So you have a team. The team creates a content and then it is taken to the young people. The moment you create a content which these young people likes in their language, then only you will be able to take this yoga forward. Of course, you don't have to forget the scientific base of taking yoga to the people. Then the research. Everything has to be research based. You should be able to tell that this is the research we have done and this is what the effect is. So if you are taking this yoga, as Swamiji has told, that he has told about the needle and thread for focusing. He has told, if you are focused, then only you will be able to put that thread into that needle, that hole of that needle. Focus is important. Now, can we use some of the yoga practices for concentration, and that concentration is helping to improve their performance? Can we do a research? If we can do research on this by all the schools, then we will understand how useful this particular thing is. Then traditions. Sometimes what happens, that I must tell you, because all of you are yogic practitioners, yoga practitioners. Sometimes we say that no, we will follow this way only, and this is the only best, others are not. That openness we need to bring. Unless and until you bring the openness of deliberation and discussion, I am sure we will not be able to take it forward. So can we bring that openness into our traditional knowledge? Deliberate, prove it. The moment you prove it, people will accept it. So that openness we need to bring into our curriculum. How do we bring? That needs to be thought about it. And if we really want to take this to the schools and colleges, number one is all the teacher education programs like D.Ed and B.Ed. Every teacher must be taught yoga practices, number one. Number two is whatever knowledge which has been created till today should be told to them. They should be told to do research on this yoga. The moment teacher knows, student will practice. It will never happen that we are bringing a yoga teacher from outside, he is teaching and teacher of that particular school are not practicing, children are not going to listen to. And therefore we need to train all future teachers first, because it can be part of the teacher education. So all the teachers will learn. So when they will learn, whenever they will go, they know yoga and they can take the practice from students. That is the most important thing which we should do. All the teachers should be the yoga practitioners. Then next is, can we network yoga institutions? You may have different opinion, but somebody has said common minimum program. Usually this term is used in politics, so let us not bring that, but let us have a common minimum program which can be taken to students, so that everybody will accept. The moment everybody come to that common minimum program, then you can create a movement. For creating a movement, you should have one voice, and that is the topic, and therefore weaving into educational system. Then don't compete. When I am saying networking, we have seen that several institutions and schools, they are in competition with each other. We don't want competition. Your existence, your identity, yes, you must have your identity, you must have your existence, but if you compete, movement cannot be created, it will break down. So instead of competition, if you want to have your identity, you have your identity, but cooperation is a very good word. And in 21st century now, they have combined these two words. Then they use cooperation. So you have your identity, but cooperate with each other and take the best of the best yoga practices to the people. Don't work in isolation. If we work in isolation, I don't think we will be able to achieve much. As we have seen the 100-meter race, the person who has broke all the records of 100 meters and ran in 9.58 seconds, all the muscles of his body were working together. Every muscle participated in that race. Similarly, yoga helps you to party up, helps you that all the parts of your body, visible and invisible, participates in creating a good life for that, yoga education is very, very important. I must thank all the 4 experts, panelists, those who have put forward their views.